We are the sexagenarian sages.
And we are here to bust the myths of sex and aging.
And this week, we've got our special guest, our friend, Julia, the Kinky Fairy Godmother.
Woo!
And we're going to talk about what is kink. Julia is a sex coach and sexological body worker. She helps hesitant people celebrate their desires, feel more in their bodies, get great at knowing their yeses and their nos, and develop confidence communicating their desires so they can unleash their sexual creativity and connect sexually with self and others.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So how are you today, Julia?
Oh gosh, well, I'm super psyched to be here with you both. Thank you so much for having me, Kevin and Belinda. And thanks for that lovely intro. It's true. I do like folks, working with folks like that. Oh boy. So yeah, a little more about me. My pronouns are she and they, and my erotic blueprint is Kinky Shapeshifter. And this particular topic of kink is really near and dear to my heart because all my life I've always been kind of interested in sex, very interested in sex, like nerdy about it, into it. But it wasn't until a few years ago, actually, while we were all in erotic blueprint coach training together, that I realized just how profoundly important kink is to me personally. For me, I was like, oh, this is the way, like, this is very important for how I bring my full creativity, wackiness, weirdness, and intensity into my sex life. So kink helps me be more myself in sex. So it's great stuff.
Great.
Really psyched.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. And I have to say, for me, like many people, my perception of kink was the way out there stuff. And it wasn't until I got into the erotic blueprints and learned that, it just needs to be edgy to me. And that's actually one of the definitions of kink. It's something that's a little edgy to you.
And each person determines that for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
What would you define kink as?
Oh gosh, I mean, I think that's a really good general definition because there are so many ways of defining kink and it is by its nature so unique. One of the mentors that I especially love when it comes to kink is Midori, who's fantastic. And the way she defines BDSM specifically, but I think it kind of applies to kink in general, is, childlike playful joy with adult sexual expression. Or adult sexual privilege, I think she says, and cool toys. And I'm like, that is exactly it. To me, it really does bring in all of those wonderful, joyful, creative, playful things with adult sexuality. And yes, cool toys.
Yes. And I love that definition because it is playful. And it's one of the places where we can bring out our playfulness.
Mm-hmm. I know for some people, it's scary to get started at it, to even ask about it, that they may have a kink and they're afraid to talk about it, even with their partners. But finding a way to make it playful can add such a playful edge to your sexuality.
Yeah, it's like those times where you're like, haha, this thing is a joke. And then you're like, oh, this thing for real.
Yes.
It's a beautiful way in. I agree.
Yes. Cool. That's just a general definition of kink. Let's talk about some kinky activities.
Ooh, let's. There are so many of them.
Yes. That's it. There are so many of them. And my particular kink is bondage. I've discovered that I like to consensually be restrained and receive sensual touch to my body while I'm restrained. That's my particular kink at this time. And I may expand it to some others as I go on.
Sure.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I'm curious, Belinda, how does that feel for you? Like, what's the atmosphere? What does that give you?
It gives me the opportunity to let go of some of the control. It doesn't let, I'm not the type to completely let go of control.
I know. Yeah, that's true. Yep.
But it allows me to let go of control. And part of the reason it allows me to let go of control is all the safety that we build into it.
Yeah.
The things that we discussed beforehand, the safe words that we use, so that I know that I am safe to basically turn over the reins to my partner. And I also know that if things get out of my comfort zone far enough, I can use my safe words. So it lets me put more of my attention on the sensation I'm receiving. And there's also the sensation of the restraints pulling against me. That's part of it.
That's beautiful. Yeah. That's just magical. Yeah, there's so many delicious things for kink. I'm with you. I think bondage is great fun, great fun. And I would say a little bit in contrast, for me, I think my major, like my most core kink is psychological kink.
Okay.
For me, it doesn't have to, I like, don't get me wrong, I like sensation as well, but it doesn't even have to be sensation. It can be a game, like, you know, like role play that, you know, I'm sleeping and I don't notice that there's somebody else right next to me. Or it could be, gosh, let me see. Like I could role play that apparently like hiding things and like sneaking around figures into my fantasies a lot. So it could be, I'm a ghost and I'm creeping around and nobody notices me, or any number of other things.
So you would include role playing then as part of kink.
Oh yes, it certainly can be.
And that can include costuming, depending on how you dress. I notice what you have on. Very pretty collar.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so sticky.
Does that represent anything?
Oh, good question. It was a gift to me actually from my spouse. So that is meaningful to me. I guess well, I'll go into a little. Yeah, my collar is fun for me because it's got this sort of pale blue, which we think of as this like light, you know, innocent color. And it's got these big sharp spikes. They're not so sharp, you know, they're not going to actually make anyone bleed. But I enjoy that as a combination of like soft, innocuous, you know, gentle, but then also zap.
Yeah.
Zap. Yeah. And you may notice some collars have like a loop, like a ring that you can kind of tie things to. And
around.
Yeah, which is beautiful. And like that is that can be so profound. I actually have some neck issues. So leading me around by the neck is like not gonna work well for me. So I especially enjoy this color because it doesn't have one of those. Instead, it's got the spikes. So I can be like a little Rottweiler and like, ruff, you know, can't restrain me by the neck. Ruff.
Cool. And that actually brings up another type of kink. Is animal play.
Oh yeah.
Like pony play or dog play. It's a way to connect with that animal part of yourself.
Yeah.
And honestly, to me, I love the word play in there because that's what it's about. It's about playing.
Yeah.
In a way that may be a little bit edgy to you.
Right. I love animal play too because it connects you to not only being able to express this more like, you know, or whatever it is, but also it's a way of being able to receive nurturance, like the way we tend to play with animals, the way we tend to nurture animals, like, oh, who's my little snoogie woogie woogie with the cute face, you know? Like sometimes that's awfully fun to receive, you know? I enjoy receiving that. It just fills my whole body with like tinglies of playful pleasure and delight.
And that can actually be an expression partly of the physical and partly of the psychological kink at the same time. Because you've got the receiver who's being submissive and receiving attention from a dominant, and it's an expression of care for the submissive by the dominant, and it's also more physical in the sense that you've got perhaps some costuming with it, as well as particular touch.
I love that, Kevin. That's so cool. Negotiation is one of the most important parts of
Okay.
Can you discuss that a little bit? What is a negotiation?
Ooh, what is a negotiation? Yeah, a negotiation is really, you know, you could do it for anything. And it's basically, here are my cards on the table. This is what I'm interested in. This is what would make it really good. This is what would make it not good for me. Are you interested? Can we find some overlap, some place where our Venn diagrams of preference have a sweet spot? And that's basically the gist of negotiation. And it can be, for some people, negotiation can be a pretty long thing. For some people, it could be a pretty short thing. And yeah, it can be surprisingly intimate just to negotiate what you want to do, even before you actually do it, because you're being genuine, you're revealing, you're saying, this is what I would like, and this is kind of why it turns me on. Are you into that?
Cool.
A lot of vulnerability there. Yeah.
A lot of vulnerability. Yeah, vulnerability and hope and strength, I think, all together.
Yep.
How about a little demo? Would you like a little demonstration?
I would love to do a little demonstration. I'm so glad you asked. So, full disclosure, this is not a surprise. Kevin and Belinda and I have talked a little about this before, because we were thinking, what better way to kind of show a little bit more about kink than to actually have a quick demo. So that way we're not just telling you about it, you get to see a little something. And so what I have already done, because we were talking about negotiation as the way you check and you say, okay, well, this is what's in my heart. This is what's in my set of desires. Like, can you meet me there? And it's important, even if you're doing something kinky all by your own self, all by your lonesome, it is important to have that negotiation, especially when it comes to consent, within your own self. So I've already kind of done that with myself. I've been like, okay, you know, if we did a demo, if I did a little demo of kink with my own self, with Kevin and Belinda, what would that look like? What would feel good to me? What would feel like, oh, that's a little too much for me? And so now I would love to tell you what I have been thinking about that little demo, and then maybe we can talk about how that would fit into what you all want to do.
Okay,
Great.
sounds wonderful.
All right. Fantastic. Cool. So what I was thinking is this could be a very short little micro scene. And I have got here some little sensation toys. I've got a little feather that feels nice. I've got a little thwappy thwapper that feels thwappy and fun. And then I've got a bigger, thuddier thwapper.
Okay.
And so what I was thinking is I could do just a really quick scene playing with myself, where I give myself a little bit of that light feather sensation, and then maybe a couple of the other sensations.
Okay.
And so when I check in with myself for consent, I'm like, oh, does that feel okay? Does that feel too intimate and vulnerable? And that feels pretty okay to me, because I'm not going to be, you know, taking off clothes for that. And it's not going to be revealing anything like really, really intimate about my, you know, the depths of my psychology and the tenderest spots that, you know, probably I feel more comfortable sharing when it's with people that I know, as opposed to, and all of you audience out there, mwah, you are wonderful. I adore you. And I, you know, may not already know all of you. So
And that's a good point. in a way, we're negotiating with the audience as well.
Yeah, totally.
You know, if you're not comfortable watching this, this may be a good time for you to stop watching this particular episode.
And if you do that, what we say is thank you for taking care of yourself.
Yeah. Because we're actually working in a little bit of voyeurism here as well. Because we're watching you and the audience is watching you as well.
Yeah, that is such a good point. Yeah. And one thing that I've heard said about voyeurism that I think is a really nice point is that there's this idea of voyeurism as like, so dirty, so nasty voyeur, which is like fun to play with too. But voyeurism can also be like this beautiful witnessing.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's your opportunity to witness someone else or maybe a couple enjoying something.
And for them to be witnessed, because they may actually want to be witnessed. They want to be voyeured.
And that would be part of the negotiation. You wouldn't want to be watching somebody who hasn't agreed to be watched.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. I love that. Yeah. And this is exactly a place where I'm like, yeah, I would like to be witnessed in this. That would feel good to me, you know?
And we'd be happy to witness you in that. And what you describe feels like it's well within our boundaries. And as you know, sometimes you get into a scene and you hit a boundary that you haven't thought of. And that's where safe words come in handy. And we're actually going to do a completely separate episode with you on safe words. But because we are watching you, I want you to know that we want to use the same safe words just to make it easy.
Sure.
We're going to say yellow if we're getting uncomfortable and need to discuss something. Does
Wonderful.
that work for you?
That is perfect for me. And for me, I can also say yellow, or I'll say red if I'm like, oh, you know, time way out. Or sometimes I get flustered and I can't remember. And so in those times, I tend to just say safe word because I'm like, I don't remember what it was, but I'm looking for a safe word. So safe word.
Gotcha.
Great.
They both work for us.
Yep.
Awesome. Oh,
Or all three, I should say. Yellow, red, or safe word.
Fabulous. Super cool. All right. So one of these, it's sort of like we've moved from like my little negotiation with myself that I shared to our negotiation together, which is perfect. So I love to talk about what kind of vibe we want to create together. Want me to share what I would like?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So I am looking for what would feel good for me as I do like my little micro scene with sensation toys is something that feels kind of tender and a little bit animal. I was thinking of it kind of like as if like a bird, you know, came down on my shoulder and was like being gentle with me, but then maybe it like thwacked me and flew away. And so for me, the vibe that I'm thinking for our whole unit here as I'm being witnessed is I would love to create a vibe where it's kind of like soft and spacious. I'm thinking, okay. How does that feel to you? What would you like?
It feels good to me.
Yeah. How would I demonstrate that spaciousness in a way that will feed you as well as me?
That is an excellent question, Kevin. I'm so glad you asked. And this is maybe a great topic to dive into, like at great length in a topic specifically about negotiation. But that is important because, yeah, like soft and spacious, but what does that actually mean? Yes. Like, what, practically speaking, how do we know if it's soft and spacious or not, right? So I'm so glad you asked that. I would say I think it would help me in terms of the spaciousness if while I'm doing it, you're not playing loud rock music or eating very loud popcorn or making loud comments or loud jokes, all of which are like cool things to do. And I'm on board with them in general. And I would like, you know, eat that popcorn with you and laugh at your jokes. But I think for this scene, it would be great for you to be like a little bit more like just sort of silent and present, meaning like sort of putting your attention on me. How does that feel?
So you prefer silence and not oohs or ahs or any kind of expression that way.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay,
That will be good with me too.
yes, and me as well. And I will warn you, we have a cat that sometimes stands outside the door and yowls.
Oh,
If that should happen, I will mute us.
oh, that's so, oh my gosh, Belinda, thank you.
Yep.
And look at this, like if you hadn't asked that question, Kevin, we might have gone off and done the thing and your cat might have been meowing and I would have been like, whoa.
Yes.
And I would have been making some kind of noise, a reaction, an auditory reaction, a guttural reaction, whatever.
Totally. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. And then that's one of those moments where it's not necessarily enough that the person in the scene is going to be like, whoa, 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 hold your horses. But sometimes it's those little things where it's like, oh, well, we didn't really talk about boundaries for like that, but I don't know, maybe it kind of bothers me, but maybe it's kind of okay. Like those are the things that can really just take us out of the vibe that we're in. So this is a great reason why it's really important and really valuable to talk about this stuff ahead of time. And then if something comes up that you didn't talk about, you can always bring it up in the scene. It doesn't have to be like, oh, the movie has started, we must be silent.
Cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So let me see. What else do we want to cover? So great. So if something happens, something comes up, we'll say yellow and have a conversation, or we'll say red or safe word, and then we'll kind of like just go right into aftercare. So let's see what else we got to talk about. I guess let's talk about some boundaries, because one of the very important hard limits that can come up for people is the very practical hard boundary of time.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's like, yeah, I don't want any, whips or chains, or maybe you do, which is awesome if you do, but maybe you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. But also like the most important thing is I need to be done in time for this appointment I'm going to. So yeah, I'm thinking for myself, I'm thinking maybe like no more than like 2 to 5 minutes for me. What does that feel like for you?
It feels fine to me. And my question to you is, how do you want to track those 2 to 5 minutes? Do you want to just do it based on how you're feeling and you feel like this is enough time? Or do you want to be a little more stringent about it?
Ooh, stringence is fun. Yeah, let's be stringent, Belinda. I like that.
Okay.
I guess this is a great place where I would love an exception to the sort of like silent like presence and spaciousness. If you could monitor the time, if you could like let me know if it gets to like 3 minutes,
Okay.
just like gentle 3 minutes, that would be perfect for me.
Got it.
Actually, I have another suggestion.
Ooh.
Bear with me for a moment.
We'll set our timer.
Yeah. Let's set it for just a few seconds.
Nice. And see how much creativity is already happening together?
Is that a nice sound to end on?
Yeah, I like that sound as like a 3 minutes wrap it up kind of a sound. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I can actually turn the volume up so it looked like you had to. Is that volume better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. So I will do the 3-minute timer, which will be your gentle warning to bring yourself back out of the scene.
Love it. So good. And then when I get out of the scene, let's talk about the aftercare.
Yes.
So care is really, 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 really important. It's like the thing you dive into, the thing where it makes all the expansion that you just had, safe and cozy. And so I have my big pink aftercare snuggly thing. So that will help me for aftercare. I can just snuggle up in that.
Okay.
Great.
And I would love a moment of like, just a moment to like breathe and settle into myself. And this feels vulnerable to ask for, but that's the thing about aftercare. Sometimes what you need is something that kind of feels vulnerable. And so I would love a little bit of like genuine appreciation or witnessing like, oh, this is what was good about us for that. Like, this is why, you know, it was useful for us to see that. I would love a little bit of that.
Okay.
Yay. Oh, thank you. And then I would love to kind of just talk about what that was like for all of us.
Great.
Okay, cool.
How does that sound to you? Is there any aftercare that you would need?
I will need some breathing. So I will do some deep breathing while you are taking care of yourself. And that breathing will help me to integrate what's gone on, my own experience.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
And I just need a moment of quiet reflection, which I can do while the two of you are breathing.
Fantastic.
Okay,
I love
cool.
it.
So is there anything else we want to negotiate before we start the scene?
I feel good. How about you all?
I feel good.
I feel good.
All right.
Okay.
Cool. In that case, I am going to start this scene by actually taking off my collar because I'm already wearing it. So, and I'll just kind of talk through some things as I go, but I'm already kind of like going into the space. So when I remove my collar, that will mean that I am the ground upon which this sensation play is going to happen. And here it comes. And I'm sort of feeling my neck. Feeling this quiver like wings, this spaciousness around me. I'm feeling one part of myself, which is the part that's here, my neck, my body. And then the other part of me feels like bird coming in, and I feel this excitement. Feel the warmth and softness of the feather. My whole body sinks. There's this coziness, sort of a dreamy driftiness. And then the part of me that holds the thwapper. It reminds me of claws, even though it doesn't look like claws. Makes me want to exhale. Feels very cool. Reminds me of like a lightweight bird on me, moving on my body. Whew. Gives me, my whole heart is like, oh. It feels like that bird just left, bounced off me, pushing off, going into the air. Now I'm bringing the part of me with the bigger, thuddier one. And I know it's there. I know it's in the air in front of me, and I can feel like my stomach going, whoa. It's got a lot more mass. It's like a pelican or an eagle or something. Whoa. And I can feel like a little bit of tightness and fear in my legs, but also this awe, this sense of awe. Just a big, and I hear that timer. Like that big, heavy bird that could probably sink its claws into me or tear me with its beak is walking on my body. Whew. And I know it needs to go, so part of me feels flirtatious and wants it to stay, and another part of me is like, oh yes, it's scary, it should go. And so now I was left by my birds, and so I'm gonna snuggle up into my pink snuggly snuggle robe. Whew. And I'm gonna breathe and integrate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
Loved what I loved just the joy on your face as you went through the different sensations. And I loved how you interpreted for us what it was you were feeling. Thank you.
Glad.
I loved as you removed the collar. It was erotic to see that coming off. I also loved when you first put the feather up against your face. You looked like an old painting. It was a beautiful image of a woman with a feather up against her face.
Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing what that was like for you and giving me that appreciation. I feel grounded by that and really pleased. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you for allowing us to witness you. Oh, I hate to do this, but we need to wrap up the episode.
I would like to make one final point. Her age is of no importance whatsoever here. It's irrelevant. This kind of play can be done at any age, and you can make it erotic. Even if you're 70 years old, you can find this as part of your erotic life.
And it doesn't have to be with a partner. I loved how you were kinky with yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so true. It really doesn't. And yeah, you don't have to be witnessed, but you've got people who want to witness you. That can be lovely too. And if you want to just cozy up in your own private cocoon, beautiful.
Yep. Awesome.
Thank you, Julia. We really appreciate your vulnerability and your honesty in this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a delight. I can't wait till next time.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll have you back.
Yes, absolutely. We will have you back. And in the meantime, if somebody wants to work with you, how do they get in touch with you?
Oh, well, what they can do is email me at BigJoyCoaching@gmail.com. And I will just caution you that I've got a little bit more volume than I've been able to reply to quickly lately, but please feel free to reach out if you would like.
And we will put that in the description section so that people have the link.
Yep.
Okay.
Super.
Great. Thank you very much.
Oh, it has been so nice having you, and I miss For those of you that don't know, we're on opposite ends of the US and haven't been able to see each other in ages. So it's
Yeah.
been so nice to see you here.
Absolutely. I can't wait till we can get together in person. It's
Oh,
going to be a
yes.
blast.
Yes, it is. Okay.
Well, fill your life with pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.